is Fischer against Gadia, which reaches a position which is so important. So important if you play the Sicilian, if you play the Spanish, if you play chess, frankly. You just got to know about it. Okay, Fischer was white and played e4. That's what he usually did. And it was a Najdorf Sicilian. So there we are. a6 is coming any second. Fischer's own opening. And Fischer had a great love of this move, bishop c4, which is a very, very dangerous move indeed. Not just tactically, but positionally as well. And Fischer carried through a very straightforward plan in many games, had incredible success with it. In fact, there are ways to meet it. Okay, more on that in a second. Bishop e7 is a good move here, by the way. That's established as the best move. But Fischer's opponent played bishop b7, and this is already quite risky for two reasons. Well, maybe more than two reasons. One, it weakens the e6 square, so black is always liable to be hit by some kind of sacrifice. Two, because it doesn't concentrate on getting the king out of danger, so bishop e7 would have solved that one. And three, again, because it weakens e6, because it's liable to be hit by f4, f5. And the weak e6 pawn is will have to move basically. Okay, so let's see how Fischer carried out this plan. f4. It's all about creating a good diagonal for this bishop. This is great. Knight c6. Chopped it off, and f5 comes. So strong pressure on e6. Very unpleasant indeed, because black really can't take liberties with taking on f5 when his king is very exposed. Well, I was going to say maybe he should do that actually, and then play bishop e7. Don't particularly like that position for black. You know, white's pieces are so active, but probably better than the game continuation, because after this, after he played e5, he found himself positionally lost just after a few moves. So what's the big idea? Well, okay, we've seen that the bishop's diagonal has been opened. Very good. Also, this square has been weakened, and Fischer's aim is to get this square under control, and that means he'll be able to try to land a knight in there, fix a knight there. So the first thing to do is try to eliminate this knight here. Now, if he plays bishop g5 straight away, then I think a check might be a problem, followed by knight takes e4. So first of all, queen d3 to protect the e-pawn. Bishop e7, and now bishop g5. There we are. So we get rid of this, and then we can plonk something in there. Okay, a check takes place, and castles, and white simply eliminates the knight. Now white has a choice. Do you play your knight into this fantastic square, or do you take the bishop into d5? Of course, knight d5 is possible, but this would give black some chances to hold. Of course, this is a wonderful piece, and white stands very well here, but it's still not that clear. For example, you know, it's very difficult for white to organise an attack over here. You know, black can just sit there, and at some point this bishop will emerge, although it's a pretty bad bishop at the moment, but it might emerge on this diagonal, maybe via d8. Black has definite chances to hold that position in spite of this wonderful piece. No, the best thing to do is to eliminate this bishop, exchange these off, bishop d5, to leave yourself with Hang on, we're going to get there. This position, the knight ends up at d5. This is worth remembering. A knight on d5 with a backward pawn on d6, and this bishop on f6 is pretty useless now. Notice that in the position with the bishop, you know, I was talking about possibility of the bishop coming round to this diagonal. But here you'll see that the knight covers these squares, and the knight's position is just incredible. Of course, Fischer wasn't the first play like this. I mean, this is classic strategy. I can think of a game of Smyslov's, for example, where he won beautifully. In fact, I think there was a bishop on e7 against this knight, and he broke with f6 and won with a kingside attack. And I'm sure there were games before Smyslov did it as well. But anyway, these are classics. You have to know about them. Queen came back, and c3. So this closes off counterplay on the c file. Bishop e7. Not quite clear why black did that, but I can tell you in this position, black does not have a plan. This is the problem. It's such fun for white to play. And now it's possible for white to go for a kingside attack with f6, as Smyslov did. But Fischer's solution here, I think, is so elegant. It really is. Let's just talk a little bit more about that knight. It can't be shifted. That's what we need in these kind of positions. The knight on a good square. Yes, the bishop is bad, but it wouldn't be that bad if the knight weren't on d5. Supposing the knight were on b3 or f3, black's position actually would be quite acceptable. But it's because the knight on d5 that really turns that piece into a... well, it's just rotten. Okay, what did Fischer do here? f6 is possible, but no. He turned in the other direction. Rook a1. Absolutely beautiful. Very unexpected switch. And there is nothing that black can do to prevent this idea of a4 breaking open the a file, weakening b5 as well. Point being that because the knight and the pawn cover b4, black can't avoid this with b4. Hard to give any recommendation for black in this position. He played f6, which is really horrible, actually, because it opens up the king along this diagonal and also along the 7th rank. So position wasn't good, and now it's disgusting. He was obviously concerned about f6, but Fischer was never going to go for that while he has this simple idea. So a4 came anyway. Black defended the pawn, and unfortunately that allows knight takes bishop and queen d5 check with a double attack. Very nasty. Okay, but if black hadn't played rook b8, well, what can he do? This is attacked. You could take, but then white is just lining up against the pawn. It's going to win that pawn very easily. A couple of moves before, if instead of f6, let's suppose black had played bishop f8, bit neater. Well, a4 comes anyway. Okay, well, let's try rook b8 now. So you trade and just hit the a file and bring the other rook in, and well, it's a horrendous position. White is going to win that very easily.